Today is a back to school day for me. We're here at Fat Creations, which is one of the best mountain bike custom paint shops anywhere as far as I'm concerned. You'll have seen the work on Windmasters bikes, Bernard Kerr, Steve Peat. There's loads of racers that have had their bikes and livery all done here at Fat Creations. We're going to follow the process from a bare frame that's been stripped back all the way through to a custom paint job, just to see what goes in. I'm telling you, it's a serious amount of work. And the coolest thing is, it's a frame that I'm building to ride, and also I might even get a chance to do a bit of painting myself. Come inside and have a look, come on. Now, before arriving here, I actually stripped down my frame in the GMBN workshop, and basically these are part of the components here, and they've done loads of prep work to speed the process up, because obviously every frame you have to take the decals out, you have to take the bearings out, strip all the frame components down. So I did a bit of that. We're going to have a look at the front end, which needs a bit of prep. But the bike that I'm inspired by to do the paint job with is actually a bike behind me here, the Manitou FS. Now let's take this outside and I'll tell you a bit more about the bike and where I want to go with this custom paint job. Okay, so this is the Manitou FS. I think this is the second iteration of it. Now it's a bike designed by Doug Bradbury, famously designed the Manitou 1 suspension fork. This is the second version of it, but essentially it's the same layout. It's got a modified version of the front fork on the rear of the bike there, which to mountain bikers in the early 90s when this came out was a bonkers piece of design. It was just incredible to see, so stiff, and it works so well. But really from a motocross perspective, it's quite logical because many early motocross bikes used the twin strut rear design on them. So actually the bike was bang on point. Beautiful finish, absolutely polished aluminium front end on there. Oh, it's just absolutely love the thing. Now the bike that Jürgen Benneke rode was pretty much one of these, but he also rode the downhill spec version, which has slightly more travel at the rear, slightly more at the front, but the outline of the bike was the same. Now if you want to learn a bit more about Jürgen Benneke and the history of this bike and stuff, please do watch the full bike build video. That's going to be floating around down there somewhere. But today's video, we're going to be custom painting a frame that I've chosen to kind of resemble one of these. This is where I want to go with it. Now, the link I've got here is Jürgen Benneke was a German racer, famously making a bike famous, which was an aluminium bike crafted in the US. So I thought with using the regular Manitou fork that we're going to use today and the shock, we'd go for a German frame to bring that in. So I've chosen a YT Capra. It's already been primed. Now let's get inside Fat Creations and find out exactly how they turn their wizardry to make a frame that looks like it currently does in absolute pieces, and will turn it into something beautiful, resembling, or at least a nod back to the past with this bike here. Okay, Beck, so this is kind of what I want to get to. I want to look back at that really cool old Manitou. But so this is the original downhill fork, and I just always loved the colours on it. So
I will start with a Google search to see what the logo actually looked like, and if I can find a good quality image of that logo as well that I can copy. If I can't find a good quality image, I will email the people and see if they will help out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and sometimes Ali will be already in the paint process, so time is of an essence. Basically, this is just now a cut line, so this will transfer over to that machine. We'll probably use the stencils in negative form on your bike, so we'll paint the colour first, and then apply a stencil on top, and then paint the logo. And sometimes you work the other way. If it's a lighter logo colour, we'd paint the lighter colour first, put on a positive stencil, and then paint wow, so you've got to think in reverse quite a lot then. Yeah, everything is reversed. Paint is a process that you need a lot of patience for. Sometimes you will get bleed through and things won't go exactly how you wanted them to go first time round. So then you have to make corrections. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan first time round, sometimes it does. So this is really where the expertise and the cost really comes into it. It's so much labour. Okay, so I've seen the back end out there ready. This feels rough, but it looks not far off how I sent it to you. So
yeah, basically this has now got a primer coat on it. So that's out of the gun as it comes, and you can hear how rough it is, whereas if you were to do it to the other bits, there wouldn't be any sound.
Smooth.
Yeah. So we take this into the prep room, and this gets a wet flat back. Because of the silver we're using on your frame, we're going to use 800 grit, wet and dry. That'll give us a really fine finish.
Just to say, that's ridiculously fine.
Yeah, when you're using predominantly silver, you know, 600 grit is okay, but there's always a risk you're going to see some fine scratches through the silver.
Yeah.
So we use 800 with silver. It just gives us, you know, that bit of insurance, really.
So just skipping back before this, so the frame obviously was in a complete complete package essentially when it was sent to me at the studio. So I took the shock out, took the hardware out and sent it down to Ali, and since then it's been doing all this prep. So this is literally the first bits you see. But how long has it taken to get it like this before we start from here?
So to get frames back to bare carbon, with the fork and the can that you've got, we would have probably invested 11 hours, I would say. So 11 hours, maybe a little bit more, because obviously we've had to clean it, mask it and prime it. So we're probably 15 hours into this job right now already, and it doesn't look any different to what you sent it to us.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, so I know obviously the process can be different for every project, but is there like an average for a paint job?
This is where it gets really interesting, because a customer will say, it's only a really simple paint job that I need doing. And it's quite funny from our perspective, because on an average frame, you've got 10 to 15 hours to get it to this stage. Once it's finished its paint stage, you've got about 6 hours of finishing, no matter what the frame is, no matter what the color is. The color is almost insignificant. So if you were to go for a 5 color fade, you know, throughout a spectrum of colors in a fade, so not a load of masking, but 5 colors, you're probably talking an hour and a half to do the color side of it.
Okay.
And then another hour to do the logos.
Wow, so that's so minimal compared to all of the prep.
Exactly. So if someone said it's only black, it's only going to take us an hour less than it would to do a 5 color fade.
Wow.
When the masking gets intricate, we're going to do a bit of intricate masking today. That's where the time can add up.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, the color side is usually 20% of the job itself.
Yeah.
You know, so you'll see today, this will go from a black frame to finished in a fairly quick time, to be honest.
Okay, so yeah, there's almost 2 sides to this. So there's the paintwork that Ali's just been talking about, and then of course there's the graphics. So what we want to get to is something that resembles that old Manitou bike, but with a brand new tech frame. And I've got a Manitou fork and a Manitou air can, so whatever we can do with those, we'll find out. But right, let's start the process, I think.
Get into the prep room.
I'm well excited.
Soapy water that I was using this morning to do the other bits. You can see some pips in the primer here. They'll all disappear, and this rough feel will all disappear. So it is literally just a matter of going over the whole frame, keeping it wet. That keeps the paper from clogging. Every now and then, give yourself an idea of how much you've done. So that's done. This area here is done. You can see how smooth it is.
Yeah.
This part here isn't quite done. So you can see that orange peel look. So we've basically got to get rid of all of these shiny bits and have a dead smooth finish like that.
Okay, so the frame is completely prepped and ready for spray now. As you can see, everything is blanked off, so the paint's not going to get anywhere where we don't want it to be, especially near bearing surfaces, things like that. In the background, Bex is actually working on the graphics that are going to go on the down tube of the bike and on the front end and the back end of stuff. But for now, it's time to get this in here. And this is where the magic happens. And hopefully, in a minute, we'll be able to click a thing. Well, I don't think it works like that, does it? I think we actually have to do some stuff.
Right, so I'll get you to use the 0.75 because it'll give you some margin for error.
What are we trying to say?
We don't want any runs. So basically, you'll struggle to put too much paint on with this gun.
Okay.
So I mean, you have to give it a few more coats, but it's just...
That's a safer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's about.
So we use that for the first colour.
Yeah.
I'll show you how to do it on the seat stays and the chain stay, and then we'll get you having a go at the fork.
Okay, great.
So I'll get you just to literally dust the paint on like that. So you can see it's just wet. I would normally go a little bit wetter than that, and I'd pull the trigger back a bit further, but I would also be moving faster. So the slower you move, the more paint you get on. Or if you're moving, if you pull the trigger back further, more paint's coming out. But if you move twice as fast, then it's the same as going half the speed with half the paint. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would pull the trigger back fully and have the full amount of paint going out, but I would be going really fast around the job. Whereas if you were to just pull the trigger back half get half the amount of paint out. You could go half the speed, have a bit more control. So I'll go half the speed on this and show you. And you have to remember to get the awkward bits. So that would be what I'd like you to try and do with the fork. I would probably blow any dust out. Do underneath. Do a little bit in those areas there. And then concentrate on full sweeps up and down. If you start a bit too far away and you pull the trigger back,
How close should I be?
doesn't really matter as long as you start further away than you intend to end up. So the problem is when you're close, again, when you're close you need to move fast. So that's another way to apply more paint, be closer, but then you need to be moving faster. So you tend to find the more professional you get, you'll be a bit closer, putting the trigger back all the way and moving really fast. But you're better off starting really slow, not much paint from a little bit further away, and then you can work, while you're doing it, you can start, say, 8 inches away, and then you can think, actually, that looks a bit dry and I haven't quite got it covered, so you can just move in an inch and then you'll find a happy place. It's all about finding a happy place.
And what about when it comes to doing like a
really tricky. So you just have I won't fire any paint now, but you just literally have to get everywhere, but with a small amount of paint. So it's like a game of Call of Duty or something like that. So I'm going to restrict how much paint can come out. So at the moment, hardly any paint's coming out. So I can adjust this needle and you'll see the paint starting to come out. So we'll go with that to begin with and see how you get on. Always hold this 90 degree. When you hold it 90 degrees, you'll get that. If you were to paint down like this, you could get your wrist getting a run. Start off the job, finish off the job. Start off the job, finish off the job. When you get more proficient, you'll be starting and stopping at the end of it, so it won't matter so much. Just by holding this, try and do this area. So just in case there's any dust got in here, just give it a blow. And then in here,
just be spinning. So.
Yeah, you basically, I'll do it away from it, but you'll be painting this like that.
Okay.
So literally one fluid motion, but remember, don't stop until the paint's off of the job. So don't stop here because you'll never stop painting at the same time as you stop moving. So you end up with that heavy spot of paint.
Okay. Would you do down tube?
Yeah, underneath. I start underneath the down tube.
Yeah. Okay, so things I've learned so far is there's probably about 20 times more things to this process than I thought, right? So without being naive, yes, I figured out there's going to be loads to do with preparation on the frames and priming and then painting and stuff. But as I've learned, even just doing some of the painting, bear in mind a little bit, Natalie's had to correct stuff and go over it again. Just small things like keeping the brush 90 degrees to the frame at every point, keeping your spraying even changing the amount of paint that comes out of the guns each time. There's so much more to it. And this, by all accounts, is fairly basic compared to the fades and all the extreme, really cool arty stuff that they do. Right now where we are is back end and the forks are sprayed black, front end is sprayed silver. So there's a combination of things going on here. Some of this is because you've got to do it in reverse with the way that things work with the graphics and stuff. At the moment, Bex is cutting out all the graphics that are going to go on the forks shortly, and I think it's going to come together quite quickly now in comparison to how long the steps are pre-painting. Like visibly, it looks like a front triangle of a bike that's kind of nearly there. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when it's finished.
So next step on these, we've put this down, which protects the black underneath. So we've now got our black part of the logo, which you can see on the fork there. What we're going to do now is we're going to airbrush lightly inside here white, and then we'll mask that off. And then we'll airbrush in this pinstripe area with gold, and we'll mask that off. And then after that stage, we can then carry on with the rest of the fork. So we'll paint it black again, and then we'll start masking the areas that are going to stay black. So there's a black area like this, and then we will paint this area all silver, and then we'll mask off a patch between this black stencil and the silver so that we can then paint the red area. And the reason this seems like it's the long way round to do it is because the red won't cover the black very well, but the red will cover the silver. So we have to compromise the way we're doing it compared to how we'd like to do it, just so that the colours work on top of each other. Otherwise we'd have to put a white base coat down and then the red, so we'd end up with so much paint. So that's it, basically. Hopefully the final stage, Doddy's bike. It depends if we're satisfied with the finish in the morning, because if we're not, we can always flat this back, do a little bit of touching up. To try and describe to you what that does, if we've got any lacquer left over in this pot, when we finish, by tomorrow morning it'll look like a clear hockey puck, goes rock hard, literally looks like a piece of glass. And that will be enough to give all of Doddy's parts one good coat of lacquer. There'll be a little bit left over in there, but we'll top up with that. And we should be able to give that 3 coats with this, which probably won't be enough, but we'll do that for starters.
So where we're at the moment, so it's currently 12:52.
So it's quite early still.
Yeah, and there's a couple of bits that haven't quite gone to plan.
Yeah, so we're pushing the limits today because obviously whenever we have anyone here filming, you get a finite amount of time to get it done, and it's quite a complex job. So what we've decided with the fork, we were hoping we were going to get it done in one go, but what we would normally do with a fork with this amount of work on it, you can see where all the logos are piled up on each other. So there's different layers of paint. We would normally give it a lacquer tonight, flat it back tomorrow, do any touching up that we need to, and then give it a flow coat of lacquer after that. But obviously we didn't want to do that. We wanted to get the process for you all in one go. So we've really pushed the limits of the paint. And there's just a few bits we're not happy with. So we're going to have to go with what we normally do on that. We've got a little reaction on the frame that's going to need some attention in the morning. But this isn't abnormal. You know, this is just paintwork. Even sometimes when you're doing it right, you're waiting the right amount of times between coats, you still sometimes get reactions. You still sometimes get paint that lifts off when you lay a stencil on top of it, you know, especially when you've got multiple coats, like on the fork, for example. So, you know, your reaction a minute ago that I'm not stressed with it and not, you know, not, what was it, workshop rage. We're just used to it. You know, it's, if anyone that's a painter out there will know exactly what I'm saying. And if you were to get stressed every time something went wrong, well, you can't be a painter. If you get stressed when something goes wrong, you can't be a painter, because you're throwing a liquid across a space at an object. If you expect it to go right every time, you're a proper optimist. So it is what it is. I'm frustrated because I wanted it to be a smooth journey for you here, your first time here. But I'm not surprised, because this is just paint. You know, we won't let it go. We wouldn't let this go if it was a customer, these little issues, we'd get them done. So yeah, the frame and the fork, tomorrow morning, I'm gonna get up early, or not bother going to bed, depending on what time we finish. As soon as the lacquer is hard enough, I'll flat it back. That's the only frustrating thing, gotta wait for the lacquer to go off now. So, you know, it is what it is. It's all the fun of the fair.
Okay, so it's day 2 here at Fat Creations. All right, I've been going for a little while now. It's 11:10 in the morning, but Ali and Bex have been up since the crack of dawn, and last night was a really late night as well. So what you've got to bear in mind, what you're getting here as a customer, you're getting much more than just a paint job. You're getting to 100%, 200% dedicated people working on your bike. So they've done 15 hours prep on my frame when it arrived here, and I thought I'd helped them out by, you know, taking bearings out, taking the frame apart, but they still do like 15 hours to get it ready for paint. And then, you know, I got here yesterday, I think probably 9:30, 10, around that sort of time, and we worked on the frame all day, right? So 2:30 last night I went to bed, and they were still up another hour working on it, and it's still not quite ready. They've basically fast-tracked this one, and you can just see the dedication that they have at every process. So they did run into a few problems, and actually it was really good, because Ali told me exactly what happened, and sometimes it just happens. There's chemical reactions, you get paint that might not take for various reasons, but this is the near enough finished frame. It's just drying out a bit here before it gets polished and lacquered a bit more, and the front end fork there, and it just looks unreal. I'll tell you what, if you're gonna get a custom frame done, the love and care that goes into this stuff, I just can't tell you enough about it. It really is unbelievable. And it's not just, you know, I'm here filming this, but everyone gets this treatment. I love it. True labour of love, this is. Well, there we are. That's what all the labour of love goes into. The finished bike, which, at least in my eyes, it's the coolest bike that I've had the privilege of putting together, I think, in my entire mountain bike career so far. I can't thank Ali and Bex at Fat Creations enough, and I must also apologise as well, because my naivety before learning about the custom painting process, like many other people I'm sure, thought, oh, you know, the silver frames can be pretty easy to do. It's only a little bit of stenciling to do the details. Mind blown. Honestly, I cannot believe what Bex had to do to make those forks look like that, with the reverse stenciling and the additional layers of paint and stuff. I just never really considered just how much work goes into this stuff. And I guess that's really the essence of custom painting. If you want a custom painted bike, you really are getting something very special. It's not just painted a pretty colour. So if you are the owner, or if you're about to consider doing a custom painted project, do consider the process, not just the beginning and the end result that you get from it, because if I'm honest, I think it's completely worth the money. I think it's astonishing what they do. This has been one of the most fun projects, actually. I've always wanted to know what goes into that custom painting. Tell you what, hats off to any custom painters out there. You are all amazing. Please do make sure you watch the other video, of course, the video that went out last weekend that's got the full bike build on here, my reasoning for the parts, a bit of a story about GMBN and Manitou and stuff. Both of these two videos have been absolutely great fun. So again, massive thank you to Fat Creations, and I probably should say another thank you to Manitou and YT for allowing me to take their products and make them like this. Well, there we go, end of this video. I'd love to know what you think of my bike. And also, I'd love to know what you would do if you were sort of given the keys to a bike like I was, and been able to do anything to it. Let us know what you would do in the comments down there. And if you've got any ideas of things that you'd like to see us do on the tech channel along these lines, please do let us know. And we'll see you in another video soon. Thanks for watching.